words about myself and Zealy. Vincent already made a short intro. So Zealy is all about providing marketing, communication, branding services, especially to startups, but also for SMEs. Or meanwhile, we also work for quite big companies already. So it's more about like having a more modern approach how to handle marketing services, like a bit more modern and approachable than normal agencies do. And yeah, like we already said, our main goal is to help startups like enter the market and build their brand, and also like shape the vision and be clear on what they want to communicate, want to achieve, and then we help them also like grow and growth hacking and everything. But we will deep dive now into the topic anyway. So, and when Vincent and I discussed what would be a nice topic to have for such a webinar, it was like, maybe we should talk about what the common marketing mistakes are, because when we work together with companies and startups and like everyone, or we can identify like around 8 to 10 common marketing mistakes, and I collected the 9 most common ones in an overview here, and we will talk about them now. So as you can see here now, this is like the map of all the mistakes that are usually done, especially for startups. I mean, if you are a big corporate and if you have a running marketing team, yeah, it's less likely that you still do these mistakes. Nevertheless, it happens also from time to time. So chill, if you work for a startup and not everything is like running so smoothly, it also happens to the bigger ones. So, and after I will also provide you a checklist on how to do it. I mean, I don't like really to speak about mistakes. It was just a catchy title for the webinar, but it's like also like to highlight certain points where we can lead our attention to. So the first point is a missing marketing strategy. So not starting with like creating the bigger picture or have your overall idea in mind, and then it's most likely that you get lost along the way. Means when you have when you do stuff, you just do it because you think, yeah, maybe we should do it, but it's not really aligned to what you want to achieve with your marketing, or also what you want, what you should reach in terms of KPIs. So this is like, especially for startups, when they start, it's like, we don't need a strategy, we just start doing something. This is not always wrong, but this is also like maybe for the first few weeks a way to go. But at one point you have to be clear on what you want to communicate and in which way. We will talk about it later in more detail again. And then another point which we see very often is like this is quite the opposite of not having a marketing strategy, is a lack of flexibility. Like even for startups, sometimes it's like, but we think like we should do it, and then they don't really adjust. They don't want to commit to themselves that maybe in the first place they were wrong, and then they just stick to it, and they don't have the flexibility to pivot or to adapt. So this is really also a problem. So the strategies should be as fixed and as clear as possible, but also leave some room to flexibility and last minute or like very short notice adjustments. And then one of my main points I always stress when I talk to clients is like, Google ads are not marketing. Only because you have a Google account and you're on some campaigns like by yourself, it doesn't mean you have a functional marketing setup. This is just one channel within a whole bunch of possibilities, and it's a huge risk to only set on set everything you have budget and also content wise on Google Ads, because I will also talk about this again later. um, if something goes wrong there, or what we see at the moment, that a lot of bigger brands, they reduce the budget on Google Ads due to everything that happens in the world, and then Google is struggling to maintain their revenues. And what they do then is just make it more hard for everyone who is still there to reach the KPIs, which forces you to increase your budget. And this is an ongoing game. And if you only do the Google Ads, you will never be out of this. So this is really important, especially for young companies. And then a very common mistakes, which also happens in bigger corporate, it's undefined audience, or maybe you have an audience in mind, your dream audience, but it's not really the target group that would like to use or buy your product or service. So this is really also one point. You have to be very honest with yourself, and also reflect what's happening once you start to sell, and collect the feedback and collect the returns data and everything, to really get clear on the point who you really attract with your brand. And then another point is low quality content. So it's very hard to produce high quality content and always have the added value and everything. But it's better sometimes to post less or use less content and just having content. When we talk to the clients, they're always like, yeah, but we need to post 4 times a week. And then we're like, yeah, but then first create the stories you can post 4 times a week. Just creating content just to fullify the need of posting, that's not really a way to go. I will also give you some tips on this later. And then what kind of collects everything a bit together is when you have an inexistent or a bad tracking. So bad tracking means when you are not up to date, all your Google trackings, when you don't have everything connected that should be connected, or if you don't have it at all. So this, of course, having a state-of-the-art tracking gives you a perfect overview of what's going on, and to also read what kind of content is good. Do you really reach the audience you should reach, and everything around that? So this is more and more important those days. So then coming to the last line of the 9 most common marketing mistakes is ignore feedback. Ignore feedback maybe from clients or partners or your friends. Don't listen to the friends all the time. They have various feedbacks all the time, but sometimes also not too good to ask too many different people. But if you hear a certain point over and over again, and maybe also if you hear something that hurts you a little bit, that should be the point where you listen the best, because this probably is really an issue you should solve. And also be active on asking for feedback, and really be open of what they say. The most important group of feedback givers is of course the customer. So this is really important. And then another very common mistake is that startups use too many channels in the beginning. So they think okay, now we launch and we have to be everywhere. So on every channel we have to be on all the touch points, and this is really hard because if you have a very huge investment or huge revenue and you can afford to be on all channels and produce high-end content, then do it. But if you have to like align your resources and maybe also be a bit picky on where you spend your money and time and everything, then it's better just to have a few but good channels than be everywhere and just do something. That's not a really good way to go. And then one of the most important but also one of the most clear points is to have an unclear value or unclear USP. I mean, without having a real something you can say why you are here or why your service should be used by someone, there is not really much to do on all the other points I just mentioned. So this is really something important. And also when we start working together with startups or other companies, we really focus on this in the beginning to have a clear USB, and then from there on go further. So far, these 9 most common marketing mistakes. But then I also want to give you something you can start working with and do it better and like avoiding these mistakes. We have here our checklist how to set up marketing, especially for startups. You see on the left side the icons of the mistakes. So you see which action solves the certain mistake, and I will walk you through this checklist of marketing setup. So, like as a beginning point, of course, you can maybe test first or do some tiny campaigns to get a feeling of the market. But if you really start to communicate and to launch your brand, you should create a marketing strategy. And then it's also important to invest into it. It's either time or money, or sometimes both. So if you are a marketing expert yourself, of course, then it needs time to do it for yourself, for your brand. Or if you're not so good at it, then it needs some investment money-wise to hire someone who can do this. And then it's also like this is always an investment in the beginning where you can't feel the direct impact, but the impact will come later. So it will help a lot to increase the effect of all your measures. Means like if the strategy is clear and you have like good measures that fit together and your story is good and everything, this will make everything you do much more effective. So in the end, you will have a better return on investment. And the marketing strategy, like typically contains of these 5 points. First, it's personas, so defining your target group, and this is also important for for steps later, like also to find the right tone of voice, how you approach them, and also, of course, the channels you should use to reach your customers. And then we design, like most of the time, we design a nice customer journey map, shows where they come from, what they do, and give you a feeling of the most important touch points. This also sometimes is very eye-opening if you really walk through a customer journey map and you see maybe, okay, you focused on a very unimportant point for too long, but you neglected some others. So it's really helpful to have a clear view of your customer journey map and your touch points. And then, of course, the positioning. This also contains the USP and your values. And here it's really important to, like, I would say, we would spend like the most time on working on the positioning, because it's very important to be clear on it and also really identify a USP that is good, and also based on the USP, define your values, what you stand for. This is very important for the next point. When it comes to messages, I always work with value-based communication. So that means once we designed the values, we create the messages based on these values. So and like in the ideal setup, you have a list of your values, and for every value you have created sentences and content pieces you can use in your daily communication. So means you can just put it in your emails or your LinkedIn or wherever, and makes also sure you have how do you say, a constant face along all your touch points, and you may also make sure you communicate your values good enough. And then the last part is to design the channel strategy. So if we have everything, the personas, the customer journey map, positioning, and what we want to say, we can put it together in a channel strategy. Means we define on which channels you should be present to reach your audience, but also like then we also calculate like how many channels can you afford, like money wise and also resources wise. And once we have the channel strategy done, the next point will be defining a measure planning. So what means this? This is like the more detailed version of the channel strategy, which really says, okay, on December 7th, we will have an ad on whatever channel, and it contains content XY. So this really is the downbreaking of everything you have to do, and wherever you will be present. And that's also why I put the Google Ads sign here. This is not also for the Google Ads, but this is also for everything else. Like a good measure planning is always very balanced. You see your own channels, you see the earned channels, like what you can do PR-wise and stuff like that. And you, of course, see also the paid channels where you invest your money and where you will have the paid ads. And in a perfect world, this all plays together, and it's really like planned that that the measures themselves will impact the others. And then another very important part, I think this for founders often is like the most important part to have realistic KPIs. I mean, they just have the KPIs, and then we say, okay, maybe we have to make them more realistic. So, but it's important, of course, to have some goals and to always define, if you have a measure, what should be the KPI of it. What can you expect out of your activity, what you do. And I also mentioned here, it doesn't always have to be like revenue or conversion or whatever. It can also be a quality thing, like you want to find out whether someone likes this or that color or something, like more between the lines. It's not always just about the numbers. But it's always important before you start doing something, you go back and you reflect, like, okay, what do I really want to achieve with it? And then, of course, install all the trackings and design a nice dashboard for it. So make sure also that, especially if you have it for yourself as a founder or like in a management position, to have the helicopter view on it, especially on the dashboard. It can be you can be easily lost in all the details provided by all the tracking tools we can use out there. So it's important, and this also goes hand in hand with KPIs. So really show the KPIs in the dashboard and don't put everything in there, just what you really need to read, and also then to make conclusions what it means. And then, as I said before, create high value content. So that means like I often say rather post a bit less but better content. But then it's also, this is always a bit like a thin line. Don't exaggerate with the quality. So you don't have to go out filming for everything you want to put on social media, but you always should like really think about, does this add some value? Is it really something someone would consume? And then find your way of what kind of content you want to post. Like, this is also a bit a question of strategy. If you have like a very luxury brand and it's important to show it along all the touch points, then of course it's important to have high quality content, and then you always have to post high quality content. Then you can't just post a snapshot of your office stock in between the other posts. But if you say, okay, we are a bit like more rookie, we want to be very approachable, and then of course you can post your office stock. But it's a stupid example, but I think you know what I mean. So it's really important to stick to your concept and always ask yourself if this is something that fits into your overall picture. And then in order to get feedback from your customers or other stakeholders, it's important to interact with your audience. So, and I always say, like, keep in mind that communication is a two-way thing. It's not just you posting, you sending newsletters, putting ads there. It should also be the other way around. So be active when it comes to communication with your audience. Like, ask them questions, reach out to fans, but also reach out to customers or other stakeholders you know they don't like you, and ask why. So this is really important, of course, to develop your business, but also like to always develop your communication and your contents. And then, of course, like the last point, I think in the last few, it's all, you can already say years, it showed us how important it is to be able to adapt to current circumstances. So if something affects your business, be flexible, but also clever enough to adjust, but don't be too flighty. So sometimes we see with startups when we work together with them, like they're like puppies. When they see something popping up or something going wrong somewhere, they run to it and they think like, okay, now we have to do this. And then there's something in the other corner and they run that way. So that's not really good. I mean, this is not so good for your business overall, but also for marketing, when the audience, they need to have a clear picture of you and what they can expect from you. So don't be too flighty on this. Yes, that's more or less the how to set up a marketing checklist. Of course, I could talk much more about it, but I think I go now back to the audience